I'm going to give a speech regarding the providence of the restoration of the six Marys. Because of the fall, all of humankind are born with original sin. Since God plans to restore His children back to Him, He sent the Messiah to do the providence of restoration. Providence of restoration means to go to the opposite direction. Because humankind became connected to the bloodline of Satan, we have to go beyond that bloodline and then go back to the original position. This means that mankind who became a servant of Satan through the fall can be restored back to become the children of heaven by receiving the lineage of heaven. That's why the Messiah brings with him the blood lineage of God in the position of a bridegroom. The Messiah came to give birth to fallen mankind and restore them to become God's children again. This is salvation, and it is the restoration of blood lineage. So why do we call the people, the women who are called to do the providence of restoration for lineage, Maria? So even though Maria is a woman who has original sin, she is in the position of restored woman who can give birth to a sinless Jesus Christ. Tamar had laid the victorious condition for the restoration of womb which cannot be accused by Satan, which was inherited by Maria. That is why Maria can give birth to the Messiah in the position of a restored Eve. This is the reason why we call the six Marys Maria. They are the women who are in the position similar to Maria to meet the Messiah as their bridegroom and to give birth to sinless God's children. But during the process of restoration that took place within 6,000 years of history, the number of women in the position of the bride of the Messiah increased into manifolds. Based on the principle, these women are to become the bride of the Messiah and give birth to God's children. However, in reality, the Messiah cannot have all these women as his bride for the restoration of blood lineage. So the Messiah has to do the restoration providence of making a condition to make all women to become his bride. So true father had to find first the six representative women and successfully restore the blood lineage through them as a foundation for the holy marriage with Hanakja. The six Marys stand in a position representing all women. These are the positions of elder daughter, younger daughter, wife, mother, grandmother, and queen. They are the symbolic representative of all women as told by true father. First, he started by restoring the position of elder daughter, then the position of younger daughter, then wife, the mother, until the position of grandmother, finally restoring the blood lineage in the position of a queen. Thereafter, the conditions necessary for the restoration of God's daughter as the bride of the Messiah is established. That is why the providence of the restoration of the six Marys means finding the lost Eve due to the fall of man and the restoration of the bride that was originally created. Based on the foundation established through the providence of restoration of the six Marys, the Messiah laid the foundation for the bride of the Messiah to be able to establish the position of true parents. After true father established the position of true parents, he opened the way wherein all women can participate in the restoration of blood lineage and give birth to God's children by becoming the bride of Christ spiritually. This is the holy blessing ceremony. It is a must for blessed couple to accomplish the 3-day ceremony before they start their family. During the 3-day ceremony, the woman is resurrected to the position of the bride of Christ and the man is resurrected from the position of heavenly archangel to the position of God's son. Thus, through the 3-day ceremony, man stands as the proxy or substitute of the Messiah and the woman stands as the bride of Christ. Thus, as a couple, they can do the blood lineage restoration providence, establish a family that has nothing to do with the fall. From this unfallen family, God's children without original sin are born. So the second generation who are born from these families carries through father's blood lineage physically, and spiritually they are actually Messiah's children. That means the holy blessing ceremony is a ritual that opens the door for the family that was originally planned in the time of creation to give birth to children that carry God's blood lineage. In this way, we could have a permission to receive the gift of the blessing through the victorious foundation of restoration of the six Marys. Church leaders in the past are ignorant of this providence of restoration of the six Marys and they tried to hide it. That is the reason why our church members could not receive the right education regarding the six Marys. So in their life of faith, some church members fall into skepticism and so they doubted the message of True Father about absolute sex. While True Father was strongly emphasizing the concept of absolute sex, for them they think he's going the way of destroying absolute sex. So they totally misunderstood it and they became faithless. It's not all. Mrs. Hakjahan, who could not understand the providence of restoration of the six Marys, is submerged into her hidden jealousy towards these women and totally lost her faith in True Father and felt only dissatisfaction. After the ascension of True Father, through the request of Mrs. Hakjahan, Mr. Jin Chun Kim started to educate church members about the six Marys in the view of the only begotten daughter theology. Through the request of Mrs. Hakjahan, the Family Federation for All Peace and Unification educated church members based on the distorted content and meaning of the providence of restoration of the six Marys. He went around giving lecture entitled The Nature of the Only Begotten Daughter, criticizing True Father, saying True Father did not live according to the principle, and True Father is hiding something like a satanic shameful tale. This is the way he educated the church members. While he was explaining this hidden satanic tale, his facial expression showed that it was difficult to tell in words, and he used ambiguous words to tell about it. But the truth is, he spread throughout the world that the issue regarding the restoration of the six Marys is a shameful act. Based on the viewpoint of Mrs. Han, Father who has received the mission of the Lord of the Second Advent should have lived a principled life. There is something regrettable. Having that tale following him, he was not in a position to select his bride in 1960 wedding ceremony. Also, Mrs. Han emphasized that before the marriage supper of the Lamb, there cannot be any wedding or no restoration providence. True parents having this tale is truly a regrettable issue. She was also asking if it was principled for her, who doesn't have any tale, and who is the perfected bride in the original garden, to bow down in front of True Father, who has this tale. She was also telling if it was principled for her as the bride, who does not have any tale, and who is a perfected bride in the Garden of Eden, to bow down in front of True Father, who has this tale. She also said that, viewed from the principle, viewed from heaven, how can she, who does not have any satanic condition, who is a perfected bride in the Garden of Eden, bow down to Father for 50 years? Mother wanted to do this, Mother wanted to tell this many times, but he could not do so. So now, these issues before and after the holy wedding, which was heard by worldly people, can no longer be kept hidden. The things that happened before and after the holy wedding are all conditions that can be accused by Satan. That is why this time we need to end what needs to be ended. We have to start a new beginning. We cannot go around with this tale continuously. Also in our church, we cannot go with this heretic tale. How can true parents with this tale based to blessing to humanity and talk about big family of heaven and earth? Mother said it is also difficult for her. We are to create this one world family of heaven and earth, so we have to quickly settle this issue about this tale. This tale in the past about the tale following the true parents, the tale that can be accused by Satan needs to be resolved quickly. This has something to do with the Ascension ceremony of True Father before the Foundation Day. Since Heavenly Parents is the principled original standard, there should not be any condition that can be accused by Satan in front of Heavenly Parents. We need to understand the Sunga ceremony of True Father based on this standard of Heavenly Parents. Now we cannot anymore let True Father do something that will sadden Heavenly Father. True Father has to be liberated and be saved. Now let us try to look at what Mr. Jin Chun Kim said as it is. What are the implications if this is really the case? Because the Messiah could not keep his absolute sex that causes Satan to accuse him, he could not stand as the real Messiah. He is a fallen Messiah. In this case, we are claiming a Messiah with a tail. In this case, Mrs. Hanakja has gotten the same tale too, because she lived with the fallen Messiah for more than 50 years and had many children with him. Isn't it that this case will also make her a fallen true mother? Not only that, also the children whom she had given birth to have gotten the same tale. Why? Because they were born from a parent that has a tail. While Mr. Kim spreads this kind of true father's tale ideology, isn't it that he is also hitting Mrs. Han together with her daughters? How was it possible for him to just spread out this ideology without thinking these implications? He also said, this time we have to cut off this shameful tale and make a new start. Ladies and gentlemen, what does this mean? It seems to mean to cut any relationship with father publicly and attend the clean only begotten daughter to make a new start. True father came and has overcame life and death situation in order to conduct victoriously the providence of the six Marys for the sake of establishing the position of a true mother to be able to save the humanity. And you're talking about shameful tale? Do you mean to say that the victorious Messiah who liberated God and saved humankind cannot manage his own fleshly desire that caused him to have a tail? Moreover, he covered up the division of the family federation, saying it is true father's fault. I also heard he said, throughout his life, true father understood the true nature of the only begotten daughter, her mission and her value. But now it is in such a pity. The children also were not educated, so the only begotten daughter is now facing so much difficulty. From the world's view, it is very shameful. Really, this is all nonsense. While true father is still here, you could not say even just a word, but after his ascension, how can you just speak this way? Consider this. Who is supposed to feel the most shameful from world's viewpoint? They are our own church members. Blinded by grudge and power, they betray the Messiah. Aside from expelling the Son, who is his inheritor, they let that authority be occupied by true mother. You have this one unique pride of overcoming difficult situation by following the Lord of the Second Advent. However, at the end, it is very shameful to show this kind of church to our parents, our siblings, and our friends. This is unbelievable. Even mothers of the fallen world sacrifices themselves for the sake of their children, but a woman being called a mother after the death of her husband drove away the two sons and grabbed their positions. All of these problems and conflicts we see now is caused by Mrs. Han's betrayal, but she made the opposite way. She telling the true father is the cause of these problems and conflicts. They intentionally distorted the Messiah's providence of restoration. Not only that, they also showed their ignorance and lack of understanding about the absolute sex. Of course, we can understand that they have to show elaborate devotion in front of Mrs. Han. But it seems that Mr. Kim himself knows that there's something wrong about it, as he impulsively uttered this way. As mother says it, he obviously is putting himself in a position of avoiding responsibility. In 2020, during the meeting with the Chonelgok leaders, the pastors brought up problems regarding the only begotten daughter ideology. He said that it's the will of Mrs. Han clandestinely. We have been hearing this. I was born without sin. After having researched and studied True Father's words, if you as the administrative officer say that this is not yet surely confirmed, how are we going to explain this to our church members as the pastors and leaders of this organization? Mr. Jin Chun Kim's answer. First of all, Mother said, educate the pastors regarding this content. Because she ordered like that, I am doing this now. I'm not doing this according to my will. She said to make it a textbook with this content. Since True Father himself established the absolute sex, he cannot be the person who destroys absolute sex. True Father is the person who opened the way for all women to be able to accomplish true love. Ladies and gentlemen, the restoration of Eve was not an easy task. This was the path of risking one's life that only God and True Father knows. In the world of Satan, the path of seeking the lineage of God is not something to be applauded and welcomed. Tamar, who has to tempt her own father-in-law to be able to continue Judas' lineage, was also a path of risking her life. Mother Mary, too, has to go the path of risking her own life for the sake of the conception of Jesus Christ. The mission of the Lord of the Second Advent is to restore all women to the position of Mother Mary. This means to make them into a clean women who can give birth to God's children. And the woman who was put in the position of the bride after the victorious Providence of the Six Marys was Mrs. Hakjahan. Based on the victory of the Providence of the Six Marys, true parents had a holy wedding and they could give birth to true children. So Mrs. Han absolutely should not be ashamed of the Providence of the Six Marys or to bear humanistic resentment against them. Instead, she should express thanks and gratitude to the Six Marys and unite with them to testify and glorify the providence of restoration done by True Father. However, she could not see the Six Marys from the providential point of view. Instead, she was consumed by her humanistic jealousy. She completely disregarded her responsibility as true mother, and she became faithless regarding the providential work of restoration done by the Lord of the Second Advent. If we keep resentment and oppose the providence of Six Marys, that is an act of betrayal against the providence of restoration. If you look at the acts of Mrs. Han, it seems that she's outpouring her resentments towards True Father. That means she's rejecting her responsibility as true mother. Additionally, she criticized that the marriage with mother of Songjin and mother of Heejin were wrong marriages. She was implying that the Lord of the Second Advent was defiled by his own fleshly desires and is carrying a tail with him. However, that will be their tail stick on their foreheads when they go to the spirit world. In the end, Mrs. Han did not only lose her faith in the providential works of True Father, but she also hated and attacked True Father as she outpoured her resentments. In this way, she laid a condition for Satan's invasion. True Father taught us that the way of restoration is to have absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience in front of God. This is not a message that we are obligated to follow blindly. Ladies and gentlemen, think about it. We are not the main person to guide the providential course. That is why there are things in the providential course that we do not really understand. At those times, we need not to make judgment carelessly. Rather, let us humbly pray in front of God to seek the door of understanding. God opens the door of understanding to this kind of people. All of the providential mistakes sprouted from being not humble in front of the person sent by God and by making confident personal careless judgment about that person. Isn't it that True Father explained the contents regarding the restoration providence of the Six Marys? Nevertheless, despite these explanations, they distorted the real contents of the providence of the Six Marys, so they have to be responsible for this. Who do you think is waiting at the end of the road for those people who distorted and denied the True Father's work of restoration? Jesus Christ gave a warning in Mark 9:42. If anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them if a large millstone were hung around their neck and they were thrown into the sea. Matthew 26:24, the Son of Man will go just as it is written about him, but woe to that man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born. The heir of True Father, Hyunjin Sean Moon, strongly asserts that those who are ashamed of the providence of restoration of the Six Marys cannot receive salvation. Thank you for intently listening.
You've got the idea.